We're starting off with a new announcement from Pfizer and BioNTech. The companies say 2 doses of their COVID shot may provide some protection against Omicron. But in their initial study, they found that a 3-dose regimen was more effective at neutralizing the variant. The drug makers are working on developing an Omicron-specific shot by March. So joining us now to talk a little bit more about this is Justin Gill. He is an urgent care nurse practitioner, a health policy lecturer, and vice president of the Washington State Nurses Association. Very good to have you here to talk about this. So what do you make of Pfizer's news? I know, every day we're learning a little bit more about this variant, and it looks like 2 doses are okay, but 3 doses are much, much better.
That's exactly, Anne-Marie, and thank you for having me today. I would say that, the data that's coming out this morning from Pfizer is very reassuring from the standpoint of lab-based evidence. I would like to caution viewers, though, that this is preliminary information. This is not information that's necessarily coming from a clinical trial or a real life situation. There was some information that came out yesterday that initially indicated that the vaccination was significantly less effective at neutralizing the Omicron variant. But what happens in a lab is not necessarily what happens in the real world. Now, this case is more related to the booster vaccines. So in the past, we've known that people who've had previous infection and then followed up by vaccination had something called broadly neutralizing antibodies, meaning it would target any or almost all variants that would come out. With the booster vaccine, we're seeing a very high increase in those neutralizing antibodies so that those smaller numbers of antibodies that do neutralize the Omicron variant, they do seem to be enough to be able to protect people from either severe disease or hospitalization based on the lab study. We still need to have more information come out on the real life and real world implications of this study.
I am glad that you were giving us context because I did think, well, if a booster shot of the current vaccine is fine, then why is Pfizer working on another shot that's specific to the Omicron variant that should be out by March, which, by then, who knows, there might be another variant, circulating around. What do you make of the fact that Pfizer is continuing to work on this Omicron-specific shot? Does this mark sort of a shift in how we tackle this virus?
I think it does represent our approach to viruses and when these mutations occur. We already have a process in place when it comes to influenza. We try and predict what the variants or the mutations will be so that the flu vaccine can more specifically address that virus. With Omicron, I think it's better to be safe and try and get the process started for being able to assess whether we need to change the vaccine or go with a booster vaccine of the same one that we've had over the past year. Mainly because there's going to be that process for approval. There's going to be that regulatory issue of at least a few months to get that vaccine out if it's needed. But as you had mentioned, this may not be needed at all if the boosters provide enough protection for people. But the problem is are we going to be able to get enough people boosted? What are the implications for hospitals and healthcare systems, staffing for nurses, physicians in areas where boosters may not be taken up as quick as we'd like them to? And I think it's a good representation of the fact that virus is going to continue to mutate. It's going to continue to mutate, and we need to have that structure in place to be able to address those mutations in an efficient and effective way.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that we may have to sort of shift the way we view the battle against this virus, because I think, the initial feeling was, okay, we'll get vaccinated. And then it was, it's a 2-part vaccination. Okay, that's fine. And now a 3-part vaccination, but there are other variants out there. And so I think that gets under people's skin. But I think if they shift the way they approach this virus, think of it the way we approach the flu, like you pointed out, they won't feel so put upon or annoyed by sort of the new information that we get all the time about it. But that brings me to this booster shot. So the conversation about booster shots when it first, emerged as an option was, is it okay to mix and match? and I know that you've done some, work in that area. But now we're finding out that Pfizer is getting new information about how its vaccine works with the virus. Moderna, the CEO suggested that perhaps its vaccine wasn't as effective or might not be as effective in the future. So, what is your recommendation now to people who say, okay, I think I'll get the booster, but should I wait until I can get the first dose that I already got? Should I only get Pfizer's? Should I not bother at all? What do you say to them?
I think those are great questions, Anne-Marie, and those are exactly the type of questions that I'll get in the clinic when I see patients. And my first response to patients is the booster, yes, I recommend it. The CDC recommends it. The FDA has authorized it. So that is something from just a recommendation standpoint, definitely yes. Now, what booster someone gets, you can continue to get the same booster. We do know that the level of antibodies and the response overall is significantly higher amongst people who get at least one part of their series as an mRNA vaccine, so Pfizer or Moderna. Johnson & Johnson has a booster vaccine both out for people who have gotten an mRNA vaccine or people who wanted to stay with Johnson & Johnson. All three vaccines still provide good protection from severe disease and hospitalization. We do know that, and for myself, I do recommend that people get at least one part of their series as an mRNA vaccine to get that antibody level higher. In general, when we have those antibody levels much higher, that's when we start to see coverage for more variants. But, if somebody already is committed to a particular vaccine, they felt like they had a good response to it and they would like to continue with that same vaccine, there's no harm or no problem being done by that. I'd say it's a little early at this point to be able to make a decision based off of what these companies are saying, mainly because they just don't have enough data and we don't have enough comprehensive data to be able to give people a clear decision on a specific vaccine that might be better. The mix and match trials that I was a participant in the goal of those was to see, does mixing and matching give an advantage for variants? I think that question still needs to be answered. And does it provide you with a significant level of protection? What we saw from those clinical trials was that whether you got Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, as long as one of those pieces of that prime series or the booster was an mRNA, you had a significant increase in your neutralizing antibodies.
Okay, so that's good news. So the moral of the story is, if the booster's available to you, go get it. And it's pretty much available to all adults at this point. So before I let you go, one thing that I've noticed this holiday season is definitely people are really itching to get back to the normal that they had before. And, the holiday events that have been canceled last year, they're back on, a lot of them. And people started planning this stuff maybe in November before we were really aware of the Omicron variant. And now it's here and no one wants to cancel their plans. So far, I've had one gathering ask me to take a COVID test before I went to their house, but no one else has really asked. And I've had to sort of pick and choose because some gatherings I feel a little uncomfortable about. So I'm asking you, there's a recent poll, 23% of people said that they planned on canceling their holiday plans in light of the Omicron variant. So clearly most people are moving forward. What advice do you give to people who are itching to see their family and friends and they just want a little semblance of normalcy this holiday season?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it reminds us of, what we do. We socialize as human beings. We have our family members that we want to see, but we also want to do it in a safe way. If your family members are fully vaccinated and boosted, the risk is overall significantly decreased. Now, we do know that breakthrough infections can happen. We really don't know the information related to Omicron as far as how transmissible are you if you are boosted and fully vaccinated. What are the implications for everybody else in the household with their overall risk of severe disease and hospitalization? These are tough decisions and tough conversations to have with our own family members. I think that getting tested ahead of time is certainly a step that's going to be helpful. It's not going to hurt. If you can identify even just one positive case for somebody that was going to originally come to a specific event, that you can do a lot of prevention with just that action. Considering wearing masks indoors, especially if there's not a lot of ventilation, a lot of air movement, and looking at, okay, who's being invited, what's their risk level, how can we minimize risk from the standpoint of testing, from vaccination, and masks. We've known for the past year to year and a half, all three of those pieces are important, and they're tools that we know work. The other piece with this is people are really focusing in on Omicron. The profound majority of the cases in the United States are still Delta variant. And we know that the vaccines are very effective, especially if you're boosted. It brings you up to that 95% level protection from contracting Delta variant. Things may change in the weeks coming up, but we know how to protect ourselves, and we know what's necessary to be able to prevent further spread of the disease. So I think making good common sense decisions, it's going to be individualized based on your family. But think about all three of those things when you're wanting to get together.
Yeah, all good advice, Justin. Thank you very much.